Hey everybody, it is the first official week of Christmas. I hope we are all feeling good, doing good, looking good. It's a bit of an oxymoron to this main subject and focus of this episode, but welcome to the 4 weeks of Christmas. This first, let me elaborate first. So, if you guys do not already know, the 4 weeks of Christmas is going to be 4 episodes for the month of December, so you will be expecting 1 episode per week. To close off 2023, this is the first annual 4 weeks of Christmas. I'm trying something new, seeing what works, what doesn't. But yeah, anyway, let's dive right in. So my main focus for today's episode is grieving, and not just grieving in the sense of a loss of a family member or a friend or whoever. When I'm thinking of grieving, this focus of this episode can really go into almost anything. Let's break it down. Grief is a natural response to loss, and when I'm focusing on the topic of, grieving and sorrow and depression this episode, I'm really not only talking about loss of a loved one in the matter of death, but in the fact of feeling an emotional suffering when something or someone you love is taken away or leaves you. I really just want to dive into this because I think this is a really common topic, just not only in everyday life, but I think especially around Christmas, it's really a topic that resonates almost even more. It's the holiday season, everyone seems or appears to be, happy. It's like you want to feel happy, and sometimes you're not. And it's okay, because that happens, and it's like one of those things. Sometimes you're not happy, and that's that, and you can't just force happiness. And I also think it's really easy to lose sight of the little things and the important things, especially during Christmas, because a lot of the big focus of Christmas really goes on to material things and, everything you don't have, like the presents you don't have or aren't getting, or the people that aren't in your life, or the people that are in your life but you don't want them there, or so on and so forth. You get the idea. So the first topic in this concept that I want to talk about is missing a person or missing someone, and not only just missing people, but again, just feeling bad in general. Just, seasonal depression, it happens. Depression in general, it happens. Or just feeling straight up sad. Like, it's just one of those things that happens, and I've said it happens a lot, so let's move forward. So the first thing I want to say before I dive right into my whole spiel is I want to say Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. It says, "The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit," or broken spirit, so be it. So the verse, if it's not any more clear, is saying that the Lord is with you. If you are hurting or have a broken heart and you're just in not a good place right now, know that the Lord is currently with you and is surrounding you and is a place of refuge for you. So remember that. So if you are in a place of hardship right now, I want to acknowledge and say that I understand and I know you're hurting. I may not understand the details, and maybe I've not been through what you've been through, or no one else around you has been through what you've been through, and it really doesn't feel like anyone understands. But for starters, you can certainly know that God understands. I know it's awful. I know you feel like the world is on your shoulders and you can't escape it. You maybe even feel like your life has no purpose. A lot of the time, when we're hurting, we forget and lose sight of the beautiful things in our lives, even the most smallest details. Because when we fall into a dark abyss, our perception is immediately fogged. Our view of everything, like life itself, is just dulled. It's like someone took a saturation bar, on editing photos, and lowered the saturation of life to 0, and everything just loses its color. Everything's black and white. You lose your precision. When someone leaves our lives unexpectedly, or maybe you thought you were advancing in life, and then all of a sudden the Grim Reaper is lurking on your back again. Times you may feel as though you don't even want to come back up to the surface, because The surface can be scary. The surface means you're at opportunity to be drowned again. And when I'm referring to the surface, I'm talking about, overcoming sadness and hardships, because it means you're vulnerable, because you're at a stake to be harmed again, and no one wants to feel pain. And a lot of the time we find it easier to just sink and stay sunk because it means we're not vulnerable. But staying at the bottom of the barrel is not going to change your circumstances, and I want to stress this so much, because a big thing people need to realize is that Satan harbors for this. He wants you to drown, and he's going to continue to find ways to open doors and purposely make you sick. When people decide or choose to stop trying or accept the negative things in their life to be something that makes them who they are or how their life should now be lived like, these are the same people majority of the time that wander and whine about the things other people are achieving or have, and they ruminate about what they do not have. And you know what that sets us up for? A miserable life. And I will say it very clearly. This is a circumstance many people choose to live because they collectively made the decision to take this on as their personality or their lifestyle. Or sometimes people don't feel like they really have an option, so they just take things as it is. They let things be what they are and feel sorry for themselves. And this is where I give you my advice with this take, or this lifestyle, and say, you make your life what you want it to be. You set the tone. You set the tone for the friendships you want to have. You set the tone for the relationships you want to have. You set the tone for the mindset you want to have. And I could go on and give a million examples of these, and perhaps that's probably another episode if anyone's interested. And maybe I'll cover it in a growth mindset episode, which, you'll see coming through, or coming soon, week 3. But moving forward, the point is, you make or break what things will and won't be. Bad things will always happen. Because if bad things didn't happen, there would be no need for Jesus. Because life would be perfect, and we wouldn't have to practice and deepen our faith. We just know everything and have no cares in the world, and this is not the reality of things, unfortunately. What's meant to happen for you will happen by God's will. If you want to be happy, be happy. And I know a lot of people now are going to probably throw out a bunch of reasons now why they can't be happy, and maybe some of what I'm saying comes across really bluntly if you're feeling down, but this is where I will give a little reassurance and clarity here and say, no, don't bottle up or deny your emotions. Allow your emotions to flow up and down like an ocean. Don't force happiness, because that's no good either. Don't put on a mask and pretend to be happy if you're not. Be transparent with yourself. Be honest. If you're not happy, if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Don't try to just keep things in a tight box and pretend like everything's okay. Grieve whatever you're grieving this season. Surround yourself with loving family members or friends, so be it. Get yourself out the house, into some nature. Read the Bible. Talk to God. He cares about your problems, whether you define or see them as little or big ones. I tend to notice that a lot of people tend to see God as something that's so just far and out of reach. And while maybe he's, far up in the clouds physically, he's living inside of us. He's in our spirits. We are the temple of God. He's inside of us. And he's with us at every moment. Joshua 1:9, I believe. Don't completely quote me on that. But I believe it says that wherever you shall go, I'm with you. Something around that context. If I can get it up, it'll be on this screen right now. And even though there are big problems in the world and there's, things happening in the world, that doesn't take away from your feelings or the struggles or issues you may be having. So don't put a label or a size or a limit on what you're feeling or the situation you're in either, because God cares about these things. He's not just uninterested, he doesn't care about that, I'm not doing so good in, bowling, or, I'm not doing very good on this math test. He doesn't care about, me feeling upset about, or he doesn't care, he doesn't want me to tell him about that problem, that's just, not really as important to him. No, that is absolutely not true. He cares about these things. He wants us to talk to him about the little things. He wants to help us. The point I'm stressing so hard here is, let the process happen and cope healthily. But if you want to be happy, don't allow yourself to sink. Don't allow yourself to stay in the place you're in. Make the change. Accept things. Move forward. If you accept things for what they are and do nothing and say this is your life now, that's it. You're not going to move anywhere, and don't you dare sit there and complain if you're not going to do anything. If you're having an issue, by all means vent, complain, get whatever emotion you need to get out, but then go fix it. Go put action to it. Go make change. Do your thing. Like, don't just sit there and then do nothing, or be praying to God about it and then still sit there and do nothing. Pray to God about it and put some change into the situation. Get up, keep pushing, keep moving forward. Jesus loves us, and he wants us to be happy, and he wants us to make what we can of the time we have on earth. Jesus certainly did not die on the cross for us to just live miserably. And if this is all coming across as very, straight up and blah, blah, blah to the point, that's the point. And I am so extremely sorry if you're going through something really difficult, or whatever the case may be. Or perhaps there is a loss in your household, or something you're coping or, grieving over in whatever circumstance. And I am deeply, truly sorry. No, I really don't think anyone should have to go through that. Unfortunately, life is how it is, and these things happen. But if, in a perfect world, these things wouldn't happen, and we would all be happy, and we wouldn't have to grieve and cope over these things. But that's not how things are. But if you are in a place right now where you're dealing with these things, I want to say that you can know you're not alone, and while taking whatever means you have to take things in and, process and get over things, don't make whatever unfortunate situation you've had or experienced become what your life is. You can be stable in yourself and have instability all around you. Don't let your external factors define what you are and who you are as a person, because I promise you, people perceive you way more than just your external. Because I feel like it's a very irrational fear. Like, it's something that I have, like, sometimes, like, where I'm sure people can see, like, what my life looks like and the things that are around me, and then think, oh, like, you have a tendency to think, oh, well, they're going to determine my character off of this. And, well, some of that is true. Not all of it is true, because you can be your character and be yourself and, be stable and be whatever you are, and your external factors not reflect you at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's just how things are, but don't be afraid and think like, oh, like, people think I'm this because of blah, blah, blah around me. Because if people really want to look deeper, or if someone really wants to get to know you, they're going to see that's not who you are, and that they'll just see you as a stronger person, Like, they'll be like, wow, well, she's got this going around, or he's got this going around, this going on around him, and wow, like, he's a great person, he handles this so well, he's got this great mentality, and blah, 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 So don't let these things, don't shrink yourself, don't limit yourself, and don't make whatever you're going through right now become the rest of your life. Eventually, everyone needs to come to a point of acceptance and, moving forward. Don't just stay stagnant, because I guarantee you, whatever's going on in your life, that thing or that person does not want you to be stagnant. And when I refer to a thing, I'm not saying an inanimate object doesn't want you to be stagnant, because of course they're an object, but I mean, don't let, for example, a silly math test, or, don't let something that broke, material thing that broke on you, don't let that just allow you to become stuck and still in one spot. Or if someone leaves you, or you have a breakup, or you lose a family member, don't let that loss allow you to just stay stuck in the same place for the rest of your life, because they wouldn't want that for you. And if they perhaps in whatever scenario they so happen to want that for you, guess what? You don't want that for yourself, no matter what. You want to keep growing and thriving as a person you are. So that's what I have to say. Now I want to talk about loneliness. Loneliness is a very, very common feeling. Everyone, I think, at some point in their life has this kind of feeling and can resonate with this, and I know I certainly can. And the little piece I want to say on loneliness, especially during Christmas time, is sometimes the best thing is to be alone. Because the people we may want in our life, or the company we may desperately want, could actually be the very last thing we actually need. Remember, God sees the things you have not seen, and He has your best interest. And I think a lot of the time when you find yourself in a place where you're really singled out and alone, this is one of the best ways to become stronger in your relationship with God, and to really, perhaps maybe if you've fallen or drifted from Him, to rekindle that, because it fills more time for conversation with Him, moments of silence, worship. I think sometimes loneliness and being alone is the best thing a person can have. And while it is difficult, especially coming from a person who doesn't like to be alone, it really just sets you up for really great character building. And it really just makes you grow, and it makes you learn things you like to do and what you want to do and how you maximize and use your time. And it teaches you, for future reference, the kind of people you want around you, and what is worth your time, and what do you want to spend your time doing when you so happen to be around people. Or, even if you're by yourself, it allows you to recognize and think, what do I want to do with my time? It's nice to have company, but sometimes the best company is yourself, especially if you're in a scenario or your external factors are just not what is right or pictured, or is just not who reflects you as a person, or is not what you need to grow further as a person, if that makes sense. So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you all your problems are going to go away and in no time, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to feel on top of the world. And, this whole segment of this portion of the podcast or episode today is not to, necessarily fix your problems and tell you the solutions to, your grieving or your loneliness, but it's more of a remembering. It's more of a very blunt reminder of the reality and truth of things, and it's more take it as you will, what you want to, take from this. I did not want to make this episode a coddling kind of episode, woe is me, I really want this to be straightforward, get to the point. I want you to hear what I have to say on these topics, and I hope you can take something out of it. So yeah, that's that. And also, before I continue on, if you are needing a friend or someone to talk to, my DMs are always open. Yeah. I hope I hope everything I'm saying is coming across correct. I will guarantee you that you are never truly alone once again, because you have Jesus and He loves you. And even if you were to walk away from Him one day, He will always be there ready to welcome you back, because God is a merciful and a graceful God. Speaking just now of verses, before I completely move forward, I want to mention Psalm chapter 73, verses 23 to the end of the chapter. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart, and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go a-whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I may declare all thy works. Okay, you thought that was harsh, or, wake-up call. You're not ready for this part, guys. So we're gonna go into dependency. And when I'm saying dependency, I want to talk about materialistic or idolization of things. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So it's really easy to begin to worship items or people without even realizing. Like, for example, I'm going to heavily rely on the example or idea of a person or a partner, because it's the easiest thing that I can think of at the top of my head. So, the statements, I'm nothing without him or her, or I'll never be happy again, or I need them. First I'm going to drop in and say the verses. Romans chapter 9, verse 16. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that sheweth mercy. And I also want to mention Proverbs 3:5. Trust in thy Lord thy God, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Those are some, dependency verses. And then I want to say that, guess what? You don't actually need them. You need God. And guess another thing. You're actually nothing with or without him or her, because we're not perfect, we're sinners, but we are something with God. And this may sound harsh, but it's true, and every time I hear this, it's very humbling, and I think it's actually a huge reality check, especially for people who may be overcome with pride. So I want to talk about the verse, Isaiah chapter 64, verse 6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. A lot of people are probably sat here thinking, wow, well, I suck, I guess I'm nothing, wow. And this is when I tell you to stop and listen. God, creator of the whole universe, he knows every single hair on everybody's head. Matthew chapter 10, verse 30. Created the beginning and the end, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning I created the heavens and the earth, and Isaiah 64:8, oversees everyone in every single state, country, continent. Are you going to try to tell me that you can achieve any of these things? Or that the good deeds you do or amount to, or are equal to everything that God does? You get my point. My finishing piece here. Don't idolize a person or a material item over the overseer of the entire universe. He always comes first in your life. And whatever you're going through, he's gonna get you out of it. But don't put a deadline on God, because that'll leave you very disappointed. Because when I tell you that God is absolutely not going to live by your timeline, he's going to go by his perfect timeline, he will. Our job is to sit and wait and be faithful and talk to God and stay in our Bibles. So stop trying to think of everything and expect something by a certain time, because if you've prayed about it, he's working on it. James chapter 5, verse 16, confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, prayer of a righteous man availeth much. And for those of you who are probably thinking, what on earth does that mean? The English translation is, therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. So maybe that makes it clearer. This one's a good one. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. For it is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. And with the whole timing point that I just made about not putting a deadline on God, I will say 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. So, don't put a deadline on God. And, applying this whole dependency and idolization topic to, other things other than, people, partners, friends, whatever. Don't get me wrong either. I love coming home from a bad day to just mindlessly scroll or watch TV or grab my comfort foods. But, however, don't become dependent on them. Don't rely on them, because relying on something other than God is not going to fulfill you long term, ever. Maybe for short term, but not forever. And we need God in our lives. Rely on him. Take safety and comfort in him. Talk to him. And be aware and recognize the balance and know the difference between, and recognize your priorities. What are you putting first? Because a lot of the time you don't even realize it. You can be putting a phone or a person before God without even realizing it. So be aware of what you're putting first in your life and your priorities, and just be aware. You need balance. Don't over rely on something that's not God, because it's just going to leave you not being fully fulfilled, or again, only fulfilled for a short term. I will say, in a general statement as well, is something I was thinking about the other day is don't cling to something if they're gonna shrink you, or if they don't have your best interest, which seems kind of obvious, but not that obvious, because when you really sink that in, it really affects you, and it really makes you think about every aspect of your life. Like, what are you keeping in your life? The crowd we keep, which I also would love to expand and talk about, like the company you keep in another episode. But, don't hold on to things and, just hope and wish for people to be around or to come back just because, you don't want to be lonely, or you don't want to be alone, like I was just talking about, or you don't want to deal and cope with the pain of things, because then you really aren't going to go anywhere and you're not going to grow. Don't be jealous of what other people have, but then not want to go through the same suffering and trials they did. Now, with that being said, this may or may not have been the ideal episode or, pep talk people were expecting when I'm talking about mainly the concept of, sorrow, grieving, depression, and, just feeling lonely and, overly relying on things when we do get into this time of need. I know people may be expecting, some like, I like this term, quote unquote, dessert verses or dessert messages about, the gospel, and, like God's gonna deliver you and blah, blah, blah. And he will, don't get me wrong, but it is good to, again, metaphorically, get our meats and vegetables and, kind of hear some harsh truth, or just be honest with ourselves about how we're truly dealing with unfortunate things going on in our lives. Like, yes, dealing and, working through things and, having loving people around you and getting the comfort you need, and taking, that comfort and safety in God, but also, assessing yourself in your life and making sure you're not, like, stunting yourself, because it's really easy to catch yourself in, like, a journey or path of stagnance, and being stagnant is the worst thing ever. Just because, like, I feel like the last year and a half, that's where I was, and it's not a good place to be. It's just time's flying past you. So if there's certain things in your life that may or may not be dragging you down, like the things I may have talked about, like a certain item or a person in any aspect, really think about that and think about where you are in life and what you're happy for and what you want in life, and if you are even happy currently, and how you can fix and change that. Put some action into your life. Don't just sit there and complain. So that's the main focus or topic of today's episode. I hope it was really clear, and maybe some people got some clarity out of it, and if anyone's feelings are offended, I'm sorry. But it may have been what you needed to hear, to be fair. Yeah, anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys are having a very Merry Christmas. I will see you next week, and have a good day or night. Bye!